My name is Jess Sobel. I'm with Mishta, and it's my pleasure this morning to introduce Mark Horvath. He has over 30 years of experience in marketing, a vast knowledge of homelessness, including having lived it himself. He's the founder of Invisible People. It's a unique digital storytelling organization that uses video and social media to tell the story of homeless folks. And without anything else to say, I will introduce Mark. Mark?
Hey, good morning, everybody. I am so impressed you guys got up this early. I'm impressed I got up this early. So, I like starting with this because so often these days, people blame this for being on, social. When we've been looking at newspapers and everything else for many, many years. Hardly normal is my Twitter. I sometimes, rant about just about anything. Invisible People is the main nonprofit, homeless nonprofit, and invisiblepeople.tv is the website. So that's me on Hollywood Boulevard. I sold pictures of my iguana to tourists. I was homeless. And I said I'd never be homeless. Ironically, I also said I would never use social media. And interesting is, prior to that, I had a great job in the television industry, upper management, making sure the world got Wheel of Fortune, Jeopardy, Married with Children, 21 Jump Street, St. Elsewhere, some shows you might or may remember. And I ended up homeless on Hollywood Boulevard. I rebuilt my life back to a 3-bedroom house, a new car in the garage, pool in the backyard, and the economy tanked in 2008. And I lost everything except my sobriety. So probably 2009, if there was one nugget I could leave you with, is whatever resources you have, far more than what I had when I started. And this is pretty much all I had was an iPhone, Twitter, a camera, and a bag of socks. And I started a web page. I took $45 and hacked out a WordPress website. And what I mean by hacked out, I replaced the photo. And I started traveling and interviewing homeless people, empowering them to share their own story. I strongly believe that our inability to relate to homelessness is our biggest obstacle to ending it. And so, for example, in Los Angeles just raised $4.6 billion to end homelessness, yet it's the public support that is now the battle. And that's happening more and more in every community. I mean, we're all familiar with NIMBY, but it's much deeper than that. And there's just a real lack of education focused on the general public, and that's my niche where I fill. So I'm going to go through some stuff really quick. I usually more go for a deep dive, but this is the 20-year anniversary, so they asked for a little bit of the past and a little bit of the future. My iPhone sunk to the Ford Motor Company website for 2 years. And at the time, I had a bag of socks, iPhone, Twitter. That's all I had. I mean, my house is going into foreclosure, and here's, Fortune 100 company sharing homeless videos. GM lent me a car. Murphy Oil gave me a year's of gas. Now Haynes used to give me socks so I would go away. Now we have given through the Salvation Army about 4 million pairs of socks over the last couple of years. We do multiple campaigns. So part of my strategy is, in nonprofits, we often just talk to ourselves. We talk into an echo chamber. So part of my strategy is to use major brands to reach other audiences that we wouldn't normally reach. This campaign here, where we told stories, this is 2010, this campaign here reached 132 million people in 30 days. And this is one of the Vines. I don't know if you guys remember Vine. It doesn't even work anymore. It's out of business. they killed it. But here I'm using Vine to tell the real homeless numbers, not the narrow definition homeless numbers, educating the public. And I am now consult with Haynes. And from full on swing of go away, here's some socks, and now I work with Haynes to do some amazing campaigns. This year we shipped smartphones to 3 homeless people around the country and had them record a day of their life on Instagram. It was a truly amazing campaign, and we're going to talk about digital inclusion in a moment. But Amanda's, who's pictured here, it was the cell phone that she was able to contact housing and mental health and all the services. It was the cell phone that got her out of homelessness. And it wasn't just the hardware, it was the year that we paid for her to have service. And something else I want to recommend. So Amanda, one thing we do in nonprofits is we don't necessarily empower the clients and people we serve. So Amanda was video blogging while she was living in a tent under a bridge. So she also video blogged her moving into an apartment. So you have an asset with your clients and those stories to tell that are pretty amazing. So Kenneth Coles used my videos, Tyson Foods used my videos. YouTube in 2010 gave me their homepage for a day on August 22nd. 1.6 million people who would have never rolled down their window at an exit ramp had a positive interaction with homelessness. I've done several projects with YouTube. Google asked me to record videos for President Obama. Of course, I said yes. And what I'm doing is I'm trying to show influence, and there's so much more to this story, but I want to get on to some stuff about digital inclusion. This is, you know how I said I'd never Twitter? This is me speaking at Twitter. I was the first cause to ever be asked to speak at Twitter. But this is the stuff I like. We're in Baton Rouge, 50 kids don't have shoes, and within an hour, we got them all brand new shoes. This is Don. This is the first person housed from our work. A farmer donated 40 acres of land that's now being used to feed about 150 people. And this is homeless youth that work on the farm during the summer. So this is Donnie. It was so cold. Oh, I was begging the outreach team to take me away. This is Calgary, Canada, and we went down one more alley, and he was outside for 21 years. And the community saw his video and rallied to get him into housing. So the Canadian government had me go to 24 cities in Canada, and of course I stopped in to see Donnie. And this is Terry Pettigrew. Terry Pettigrew was homeless at 8. He's 58 here. That means he's homeless for 50 years. He's dying of stage 4 cancer. And sometimes it takes me a while to put up a video, and Terry just, he so impressed me. He's encouraged me. I mean, he's living in a homeless shelter, dying of cancer. So I put up his video that night, and the Calgary newspaper put it on their front page, and he was reunited with his brother, who he hadn't seen in 33 years. So Terry was able to pass it home. And just recently, I helped the city of Los Angeles and the county of Los Angeles, or Los Angeles County, raise $4.6 billion, which is going to help about 45,000 homeless people over the next 10 years. As I was traveling, meeting homeless people in real life, homeless people were also connecting to me online.
Now, you use social media, and we've connected, maybe 6 months ago or so via social media?
Perhaps, yeah.
And actually, please forgive me, I was coming into Chicago and even forgot you were here, and last night you woke me up on Twitter and said, hey, you're here, I'm still here, I'm homeless. Tell me about being homeless and using social media. Why are you on Facebook? Why are you using social media and Twitter? And does it help you?
Oh, it helps a lot. And one thing it does is, kind of like educates people, I guess, to my situation, and helps them to understand more of what I need and what my life is like. It helps me a little with stress. I can do little venting sometimes. I can send a message through a cell phone or on the internet. and say exactly what my thoughts are at that moment.
Now, how often do you get internet access?
It varies. Whenever the library is open, depending on my schedule. It might be just for a few hours a day. It might be for the whole day. It could be, a few days a week or almost every day.
And now you're using, how do you use Twitter on your phone?
I just do a text message. I don't get internet on my phone, but I signed up on Twitter to access it by the phone, which I love, so I can still get my messages out.
So Anne Marie was the first person that really reached out to me that I connected, and she taught me so much because she would tweet to me and I would respond, but she wouldn't respond. Like, we all respond on Facebook, pretty quickly, but she wasn't able to. And that's because she had to wait till the library opened up. She also taught me about how social media can really help with isolation. I remember one time, she's homeless in Chicago. She's going to bed at night in an alley. Can you imagine that? And she tweets out, "I'm not alone. I have all of you with me." And I saw this amazing opportunity for technology and social media to connect with people. Anne Marie, also through Twitter, was able to find housing. She's been reunited with her daughter, and she's just been doing great. Now, we all know technology and mobile devices have taken over, dominated our lives. How many of you have gone out to dinner with friends this week and spent more time with your phone? Come on. Yeah? How many of you taken a selfie this week? Yeah? How many of you do this? Right? Come on. 80% of us check our phone before the first thing we do in the morning. The very first thing we do in the morning is check our phone before we brush our teeth, whatever. So I'm a geek, and I get this Google alert that somebody was blogging about me or there was a hit. So I checked it out, and it was a homeless man video blogging out of the Apple Store in New York.
This is James Christian Jr. I'm here at the Apple Store on Fifth Avenue. I just did a video on We Are Visible. I just discovered a channel on YouTube called Invisible People. The videos on it are people who are homeless, their testimony. Mark Horvath, I want to congratulate you on your time of sobriety and your cause.
So James was homeless in Central Park. Libraries allow 45 minutes of access a day. You sign up and hopefully you can get it at a computer. But if he could blend in at the Apple Store in Manhattan on Fifth Avenue is 24 hours a day. So he could sit or stand at a computer as long as security didn't kick him out, as long as he blended in, he could escape from homelessness. And it was really, really amazing. I had to fly down and meet him just because he was video blogging out of an Apple Store. And we went out to dinner, and I realized how cool it is, but how restricted, because he's tethered to that Apple Store. He can't access the internet anyplace else except that Apple Store. So I did a quick crowdfunding campaign, and we went out and we bought him a tablet. It's something I've been doing for years, is buying hardware for homeless people. And we took him to Best Buy and allowed him to pick out whatever tablet he wanted. One of the things, real homelessness is absence of choice. So often we just, this is what you should have, instead of allowing people to have a choice. It was truly amazing, and just, the experience with the sales clerk at Best Buy was awesome. So he knew a place at Lincoln Center that had Wi-Fi. This is James setting up his tablet for the first time. And he wanted to take a picture of me for his first picture, so I took a picture of him at the same time. I visited James many times, and when we're walking down the street, he could tell you every place that had free Wi-Fi. It's really amazing. And James, I don't know, maybe he sold it, maybe he stole it. I mean, maybe somebody stole it, maybe he lost it. Who knows? But he needed another one. And I just bought him, I actually ended up buying him 3 tablets. And so often, you know, a cell phone, a tablet, how do you better your life if you cannot connect to the internet? So it doesn't really matter how somebody lost their device. We need to empower them so they can get the support they need. And now James buys his own phones. But, you know, whether it's young kids, older generations, like me, and where cell phones and mobile devices and the internet is ingrained. But the general public still does not believe homeless people should have technology. So this is the out of the LA Times, and a reporter wrote, if this unidentified meal recipient is too poor to buy his own food, how does he afford a cell phone? And if he is homeless, where do they send the cell phone bills? And this was a supervisor in San Francisco that did a post where she was laughing because she saw a homeless person with a cell phone. She thought it was funny. She since deleted that because the news media picked it up and it went viral. So this is RD. RD is in a winter shelter. She actually contacted me over Twitter, and I was able to connect her to some services. And
RD
Yes.
lost awareness on Twitter.
Ta-da.
You're homeless.
I am.
Tell me about it.
In what respect? The fact that it's cold, the fact that it's difficult to find a bathroom, the fact that the people of my community are not only on the streets, but some of them are ill, some of them are addicted, some of them have mental issues, some of them have physical issues, some of them don't have any issues at all except that they lost their homes. It's a difficult place to be. Homeless is not accepted by the standard person. They look at you and go, what are you going to steal? What is it I'm going to lose by dealing with you? Or, oh my God, you stink! Well, that's what happens when you're not able to take a shower daily.
It's got to be hard.
It's tough, yeah.
I was even asked last week, you know, a homeless person, how do you use technology? How do you, I mean, now you're at a winter shelter and I see you there with your laptop. Obviously, you know, people think homeless people shouldn't have technology. Well,
Oh, yeah.
That's kind of dumb, don't you think?
Not only do I think it's dumb, I think it's prejudicial. And I think it's one of the serious ills of our civilized societies. Because if you're not good enough, you shouldn't have the toys.
Right.
Well, a computer, a cell phone, an iPod, they're not toys. You use them every day in your work. The people around you use them every day in their work. They can't get their jobs done without them. Yet, we, as the homeless, from a huge group in our cultured United States, expects us to find jobs walking from place to place with no clothing, with no decent haircuts, with shoddy sanitary conditions, and we're not allowed to utilize the equipment that you must have to get your job done? Uncool.
So since then, RD and I spoke at several tech social media conferences. And over Twitter, this is her signing a lease. She found a way to get out of homelessness, but it's also through another nonprofit called Skip One that saw her tweets and was able to get her into housing. But, you know, we as service providers don't see so often the value of connecting to people online. Besides it being life-saving on their end, it also can save money because it's going to reduce time and services and different things. So one thing I did starting, I don't know, about a year ago, I've been doing virtual case management, which is what I call it, for 10 years. But about a year ago, I started an online group for homeless people. And this is one of the, feeling grateful for all you guys here. You're saving my life. You really are. It's lonely being homeless without peers Every single person who posts here helps me. I know I'm not alone. You guys get it. That's no small thing. Not to me. Occasionally I get locked out of Facebook for verification. Those are the longest days. I want to hear your ideas. And I can tell stories and stories and stories of people that have been helped through our online support group. Here is a 18-year-old girl that is homeless 8 months after her dad died. And when the hurricanes were hitting Florida, and it's gorgeous seeing these homeless moms adopting the homeless youth that come in. And one thing I've learned about virtual case management and online communities is kids don't hang out with adults. They don't want to. We're not cool. So the homeless youth will come in and then they'll leave. But I don't know if you guys know this, homeless youth have online support services for homeless youth. They have ride sharing and couch sharing. There's even a service where if you're upset or you're having problems with your parents, another homeless youth will call your mom or your dad. Now, we, homeless service providers, do not have any online support for homeless people. Yet homeless youth have support for them for other homeless youth. Pretty amazing. This was a mom with 6 kids. She did her first live stream. She was in crisis. She was being exited out onto the streets. And just so it was very lucky she's in a city where I'm friends with the CEO, and I know Andy will drop whatever he's doing to go help a homeless mom. So he went and picked her up. And this is one of my favorites. So this woman, brand new to homelessness, brand new to our group, she says, how does this work? I'm homeless and late stage Lyme disease. I'm terrified. I live in my car. And I don't know why I felt a sense of urgency, but I did. So I went to the internet and I said, hey, I need some help. Anybody out there can help? And there's a street medicine right in that city. So Maria contacted me with her cell phone and said, give it to the homeless woman. And the homeless woman called, and turns out the homeless woman was parked 2 or 3 blocks away from Maria. So they were able to go and assess her needs and be able to help her. And it was really life-saving. Now, this is the first time in Los Angeles I took a bunch of homeless people from the group out to eat. And this is Dave. He lives in his car. So this trip, what I do is I fly into Detroit, and I've been driving around Michigan. This is Dave. He's a member of our online support group. He lives in his car just out in Michigan. He hadn't been out to eat for about a year. I just love that face. And this is Sam Muskegon, is it? If I'm pronouncing that wrong, I'm sorry. So Sam lives in a rural community outside Muskegon. And when I was driving here, I stopped in to meet him for the first time. So my challenge to you, and it doesn't matter if you're in leadership or if you're in accounting or what, 4 hours a month minimum front lines. Now, if you're in development and you're in marketing and communications, you should be doing that anyways, because that's where the stories are. And I'm not talking walking through the hall in your shelter and saying hello to people. Out in outreach, out in the front lines, a minimum of 4 hours a month. It will really change you. But the whole industry, the health industry, is going, they even have a term for it, telemedicine. So instead of, I know, and I was going to put Jocelyn in here, I know a woman 15 years in an alley in Los Angeles, and she has anxiety, and she's never going to go to an office. And I can't get outreach teams to go to her. But she has an iPad, and if she could get on the internet, she could fill out the paperwork. What we do in homeless services so often is we create these directories, and the world already has Google. I mean, the first place a homeless person goes to find services is Google, just like you do. But we, as service providers, homeless people could input a bunch of the data right on their phone, and then they go in and see a case manager. Or when we get the CES up to where it really is being able to show availability, And a homeless person could log on and say, oh, yeah, there's availability over there. That's where I'm going to connect with services. And it's going to save so many lives and time and money. It's going to be totally amazing. But one of the things that really stops it is our sector is risk averse. That's YouTube on the left. If you've ever been to a startup like Uber or Airbnb or whatever, so YouTube, besides having a miniature golf course and cafeterias and all kinds of great stuff, there's one of these every 150 feet. Free coffee, free Red Bull, free oranges, free bananas, free cereal, free. I work for a $23 million nonprofit, services in 4 cities. That's our coffee kiosk on the right. We don't care any less about our employees. The problem is there's just no money. The money in homeless services is so restricted that we cannot do anything that might be true innovation. You know, the most innovative thing in homeless services, since I can remember, is housing ends homelessness. That's common sense. You know, every industry is being disrupted. You know, you have ride sharing with Uber, and you have Airbnb is now bigger than all the hotel chains, and you can go on and on about different startups that have disrupted a sector, but we're still doing the same stuff over and over and over again because funders do not fund anything new because new stuff doesn't fit into their old buckets. Deep Water was a Coast Guard campaign after the 9/11. They got stuck with a very hard task because now you have to protect all the coasts. So it started at $17 billion. They pulled the plug at $25 billion. The idea was they were going to take the boats and extend them so that they could be ocean worthy. And all this other things to, you know, build up the Coast Guard. And I mean, one purchase order was for $250,000 of radios that weren't waterproof. It's the Coast Guard, you know? And the problem is 85% of all project failures can be attributed to organizational silence. People knew that it was failing. $25 billion is when they pulled the plug and stopped it. They stopped at $25 billion and just said, we're moving on. 90% of employees know far in advance when projects are doomed but feel incapable of speaking up. We have to create safe places to speak about things that are not going so well. Anybody remember the 10-year plan? Right? The same leaders are pushing new stuff. I haven't heard anybody talk about it being a failure publicly. And I love some of the leaders that are, you know, that push this, but they haven't owned it. We're just going into something else without looking and saying, gosh, why did that fail? Are we going to repeat that? Are we going to repeat the same mistakes? And we're talking about lives here. Now, I support functional zero. I think it's a brilliant model, and every community should adopt it. Every community should be trying to work functional zero. But when you announce that you've ended homelessness publicly, the community does not believe you. What's interesting about this number is many of them are service providers. Our own sector doesn't believe it. So, you know, we have to move forward. I understand the political pressures of declaring victories, but you create distrust when you say that you've ended homelessness. And we have to be honest. There are more truckers than any other profession in the United States. And in 10 years, trucks will drive themselves. Pharmacists are going to be one of the first jobs automated. My profession in marketing, they say only the poor guy that has to go to the meetings will still have a job. Associated Press is now using computers to write stories. Automation will kill jobs. We're not even ready for that. What's also going to happen is cost of housing will continue to increase. Government support will decrease. We have a perfect storm of homelessness coming. And if we put these all together, looking at failures, being honest about mistakes, coming up and being, if you're going to do the functional zero, which I do recommend, don't say you ended homelessness. Say, hey, we've built systems now that when somebody enters homelessness, we can quickly get them out of homelessness. But don't say you've ended homelessness because the public doesn't believe you. So I painted a pretty bad picture. We have a perfect storm of homelessness coming. And I'm a positive person. I strongly believe what we're going to see, and it's starting to happen now. Cisco just gave $50 million to end homelessness in San Diego. Unrestricted funds. Who would want $50 million of unrestricted funds? Right? So Zillow gave $5 million, Starbucks just gave $3 million, what Haynes is doing and what different people. I see the corporations coming in and funding it because they understand, okay, the nonprofit system in homeless services is broken. Let's go in and help them. The other one is churches. Churches are going to step up. Temples, synagogues. It's not going to be so much about Sunday morning and preaching. It's going to be about helping the community. Now, for that to happen, there's going to be a lot of pain before the change. And in Traverse City, Ryan just showed me 24 churches that came together to fund an emergency shelter. I've been to Dallas, where there's a ministry that built 50 cottages. I'm not a big tiny homes person. You got to have community and support. You can't just put people into boxes. And they built 50 cottages with support, and they took 50 people from under a bridge and gave them a home. And it was a ministry. I'm like, that is so awesome. So I see brands and I see faith-based community really stepping up to help end homelessness. This is Joseph. And Joseph is one of the first people that I helped get into housing. When he came to us, he had maggots in his leg. And this is, housing first wasn't even really a topic back then. And so we got him into the hospital. I'm divorced, no goldfish, so I got nothing better to do except hang out with homeless people in the hospital. And so I thought he was going back to the streets. He'd been outside for 13, 14 years. Joseph, milk it. You got I Love Lucy on the TV. You got nurses. You got food. Stay here as long as possible. So a coworker actually found a loophole in a grant, and we were able to get an apartment funded for him. So I took him out to buy steak, to eat steak. That's his first steak in 14 years. Look at that smile. Oops. So 2 weeks later, I took him out to Bob's Big Boy to have a meal. And I asked him to smile, and he said no. And I asked him why. And he said, because you're not buying me steak. So thanks, everybody. Hardly Normal, Invisible People, invisiblepeople.tv. And if you would like to support our work, invisiblepeople.tv/support. And I came in 2 minutes over time. Thank you.
So thanks, everyone, and we'll see you back here at lunch.